Welcome back to Weather Your Storms, where we explore the power of resilience, mental well-being, and personal growth. Today we have an incredible guest who's not only a pioneer in the field of mental health innovation, but also a passionate advocate for the most emotional resilience in the workplace and beyond. Michelle E. Dickinson is a TED speaker, best-selling author, and a workplace resilience trainer with over 4,000 hours of training dedicated to shifting emotional well-being. She has worked across industries from banking to biotech, and her work is making ripple effects far beyond the corporate walls, touching families and communities alike. Michelle, thank you for being on the show today.
It's my pleasure, and thank you for finding me.
Of course, of course. Well, Michelle, you've done so much transformative work in the space of mental health and resilience. I always start by knowing and understanding the why behind people's work. Why did you feel called to focus on emotional resilience and well-being, and how did this journey begin for you?
And that's such a great question because that is my why. I would love to share that. So I grew up with a mother who had bipolar disorder. And so for anyone who has loved someone with a mental illness, they know that that experience shapes you. No idea how it would, but it totally did. And I was pretty happy with myself. I thought, I tumultuous childhood, let's just say. And found myself in a very successful career. I worked in the corporate setting for 19 years. And in my last company, we had a TEDx platform, and I had a colleague nominate me to tell my story about my mom. I had
I love that.
never visioned myself being on a TED stage, but I was invited, and I told the story of what life was like loving and caring for someone with a mental illness. And the reaction I got from my colleagues who were in the TED audience was pretty amazing. And that inspired me to write my memoir because I thought if I could impact these people in a 10-minute talk, what could I do if I wrote a book?
For sure.
Wrote my memoir. And I just organically became a mental health advocate because I thought, well, one of the first problems is that we're not talking about this, and we need to remove the stigma that's preventing so many people from getting care.
We can't sweep it under the rug.
Exactly. So I became a mental health advocate, and then my life changed. I, in 1 week, divorced my ex-husband and lost my job in 1 week. That's like the bottom, right?
Sorry to hear that.
Whoa, it's a gift. These adversities show up in our life, and they're basically refining us even in the moment when we can't see it. So into clinical care. I had spent years doing self-discovery work. I did a whole lot of Tony Robbins and landmark self-awareness work. So I had tools in my toolbox and was able to pull myself out of that through practices and through getting my mind right, just getting my mindset right. This was a temporary life event. This wasn't a long-term clinical diagnosis. So I was fortunate. I had a very conservative doctor who was like, I'm not giving you medication. You have to find some healthy vices. Big gifts. These are all gifts. So I decided that I wanted to, instead of getting back on the hamster wheel in a corporate role, let me create my own organization, because the thing I always was bothered by was why we weren't getting ahead of mental health by talking about what can we do to preserve our well-being. Now that I had been through it, I had some tools and I had some strategies. So I decided, let me see if I can make a difference in the world. I created my own company right before the pandemic and just started wanting to reach out and help people understand they have agency to do things for themselves so they can keep themselves above the line, and they're not vulnerable for burnout. They're not vulnerable for depression. And my practice has taken off, and to date, I have coached, you mentioned in the introduction, over 4,000 hours, whether it was educator clients or corporate clients, just helping them understand what they could do to take better care of themselves. So that's my backstory.
No, I love that. I feel like I resonate a lot with your, origin story. Same here. I grew up very humble beginnings, if you will. I also dealt with my father, who maybe not diagnosed bipolar, but I love my father. Rest in peace. I love him. But he had a Jekyll and Hyde in him, where my dad would snap, and then the next second he's in his bedroom laughing, talking to someone on the phone. And it's like, who am I dealing with here, But, same thing, just learning to love people, especially, it's your parents, right? You have to love them and accept them. And as you get older, you start to realize, they were doing the best they could with what they had too.
Yeah. I think that's a powerful thing to just point out, right? Like our parents did the best they could and they came from their generational, potentially their own generational,
Correct.
right? And like I think a lot of people want to hold them blame when honestly they were doing the best they could with what they knew. When you realize that, then you can give them some grace and find some compassion in your heart and know that they did the best they could.
I mean, I would argue by doing that, I would argue my relationship with him grew, you know. I remember one time we were in the car and I only told him this because my mother passed away when I was very young. I was 9 years old when she passed. In fact, I was the one that found her unconscious. And, you know, from that point all the way to you know, my adulthood, I remember telling my dad that just realizing all of this, I told him that I hope to be half the man that you are to my children that you were for us, because I couldn't, you know, just thinking back, I couldn't imagine going through what he went through, losing your wife and then having to be a single father and mom at the same time, you know, raising two children and with no help, you know. And you know, so just understanding that, and it just, I gave him more grace, you know, because there was a point where I was like, you know, giving him, being tough when I didn't really have to be, you know.
Yeah.
And frankly, I don't believe I was mature enough to understand what he was going through, you know. So
Yeah. That's a maturity. I think that comes with own self-awareness journey and maturity from starting to look at our lives differently. You know, we can't really be that way when we're younger because we're so focused on being at the effects of the circumstance that we can't see beyond the immediacy of the experience that we're having.
no, this is so true. Now, Michelle, you've often said that resilience isn't just something we tap into during a crisis, but something we can practice daily. Can you explain what it means to build resilience as a lifestyle, and how can this shift in mindset preserve our mental health?
I feel like resilience, as we traditionally relate to that word, is waiting for something to happen that we have to climb out of.
Yes.
Then we can say we wear this badge of resilience because we did it. I'm a believer that why not create daily practices and shift our mindset so we can just be able to ebb and flow with what comes at us, because we know there are two things that are always waiting for us every day. That's stress and adversity. Things are coming. Why not have things and practices in our toolbox where we can build up our resilience to be able to just dance with it and say, okay, so here comes a fresh helping of stress, but I'm prepared because I'm taking good care of myself and I can handle this. I'm not depleted and trying to deal with life's challenges. So it's a daily practice. How are we filling our cup? How are we adversity? How are we viewing stress? Are we looking at life as life is happening to me versus life is happening for me? Because that's a very different experience that we're creating for ourselves. So yeah, I just believe very strongly in reminding people how much agency they actually do have, and to recognize where they have that control and really take care of that.
No, I completely agree with that. I think, you know, at some point, you know, whether it's dealing with the mental health or even just accountability, I suppose, you know, we have to get more, I would argue, emotionally intelligent, you know, and understand kind of, at least what works for me is I try to see myself like third person, you know, what is the issue that I see here and what is the solution for it? You know, obviously I see that, you know, I'm going through, you know, for it could be as trivial as, maybe not as trivial, but you know, when my daughter doesn't want to go to sleep at night, you know, and having to try to negotiate, I feel like I'm negotiating with a terrorist, but just trying to, you know, instead of, because it's very easy, and this is what I've been working on, and this is part of this journey and the reason why I started doing this podcast, because I feel like a lot of my dad's tendencies of that Jekyll and Hyde I took on. So it's easy for me to just snap and just, you know, and want to yell at her, but she's just 3 years old. She's growing. She don't understand my perspective, you know? And so it's just that, just now, like as I'm going through this journey with her too, I'm learning to just take a deep breath, take a step back, relax, because you feel the eruption going on, and just try your best to just relax, because that same tendencies that it becomes generational. And now, you know, I see it with her sometimes because man, when they say they're a sponge, it's true, and it's like, it's bugged out. It's just, but you don't understand it until you're actually going through it,
Yes. Yes. I
So it's true.
love that when you say take a step back, because you're in essence becoming the observer.
Mm.
I want people to realize that they have the capacity to do that. Just take a step back and observe the situation. Come at it more like, like when you can start to get yourself as in the third person, then you have more agency because you're not in it. You're removing yourself from the emotional aspects and you're just looking at the facts of it. So that's powerful, having that pause.
Yeah, yeah. So, I mean, to your point, I think it's just a muscle that we have to just work on,
Yes.
but not just situationally, like when it happens, it has to be done daily, just constant reminder, because it's not just with her, it could be anything, because anything in life, So, Michelle, in your coaching practice, especially over the past few years, what are the most common challenges people are facing when it comes to emotional well-being and resilience? So what are you seeing in terms of the workplace burnout, and how can individuals address it before it escalates?
I think, the one thing is that people have related to caring for themselves as a luxury that they get to if there's time.
Mm.
Or even worse, that they allow their external environment to dictate their mood, right? External circumstances.
That's me.
It's external circumstances, it's external people. How they're acting dictates how our mood is, because we're not grounded and we're not able to see that we're allowing that to dictate our mood, right?
Mm.
So I think there's that. And I also think that people think that they're super men and super women, that they could just keep going, keep going, keep going. And when they're depleted, they are vulnerable. They're just creating more opportunity for something bigger to happen, right? Like they're vulnerable for disease. They're vulnerable for illness. You know that when you get sick, it's the body's way of saying, hey, white flag here, because you know what? Like you're not slowing down, so I'm going to slow you down. Some of these basic things that I teach my clients to do is just like, how are you filling your cup? And don't say it's the vacation 3 weeks away. Don't say that it's the weekend. No, it's how are you filling your cup every day so you don't come to a point where you are completely depleted.
Mm.
Because you don't give yourself a shot at showing up a best version of yourself. You don't give yourself a shot at handling conflict with ease and grace and being proud of how you handled that. And you're getting 4 hours of sleep and you're not moving your body and you got a whole bunch of noise going on in your head because you haven't cleared your head. So like that's sort of my soapbox, is like you have to take care of yourself and you have to make it a non-negotiable. It has to be every day. And if it's a short amount of time.
Yeah, I feel like you're speaking to my life right now. Every time I smile and laugh, it's because this is what I go through, No, but it's true, right? Kind of what I said before. It's what I'm realizing, and look, there's no manual to life, right? It's all in my opinion, trial and error as you're going through it. The one thing I can say that what I'm realizing as I get progressing in my age here is learn from your mistakes. Learn what worked and what did not.
Mm-hmm.
And what didn't work, don't go back on the hamster wheel and
keep doing it. Yeah.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
So yeah, I appreciate you saying that, and it's I think it's something our listeners need to hear.
Let's take, for example, something as basic as anxiety. I'm disclosure, not a clinician, not talk to you from a clinical narrative.
That's
right?
okay.
From practical experience, we have so many of our clients that come to us with anxiety. They just go, I'm overwhelmed. I have so many things going on in my world and I don't know how to handle this. There are tools that specifically people who struggle with anxiety absolutely must learn and have in their pocket. Okay. And I'm not saying that it's a prescription. What I'm saying is
No.
what are you doing to clear the noise? Because people walk around and like a computer having 15 screens open, they wonder why the one they're looking at is so slow. Because there's a lot of noise that goes on in our head. And that noise is what is creating the angst. It's creating a heightened, I don't know, like tense experience of life. It's creating excess worry. So it's the clearing of the head. It's the, moving your body, processing the stress through your body, having breath work as a lifeline. It's having meditation as a lifeline. It's having these staples in your routine because that's how you're going to mitigate it. And if you do nothing, it is the definition of insanity. Well, I hope the anxiety is not so bad today, but like, no, you could do something about it.
So true. I'm one of those people right now. As I look to my left, I have my computer here. I kid you not. There's probably 100 tabs open, maybe, and I'm like, and it sucks. I've been reading this book called Deep Work by Newton, and it's that, like, trying to put the blinders on and put the distractions away. We don't need more time. We need less distractions.
Right.
You know,
Right.
get off the social media, get off all of this stuff, and just focus on the task at hand. And if you do that, what I'm finding is, slow is actually faster. So if you can just slow down and just focus at the task at hand, you'll get farther ahead than you were trying to do trying to multitask.
Hands down. Whenever I sit in maybe a 10-minute meditation, if I do a 10-minute meditation, I come out of that meditation laser focused. My
I love it.
effectiveness is 10 times better than it was when my head was full with all the things that I had to do. People don't realize meditation isn't woo-woo. Meditation gives you a chance to come back and have the focus. And even more importantly, it teaches us how to be present with ourselves. We don't do in a distracted world.
There's a key word you said there, and it's something that I've been preaching almost. I remember the other day I was with a client, and he's becoming a new father, and I congratulated him, and I told him, listen, man, the one thing I can tell you, I'm a young dad just like you, but what I've realized is, as much as possible with your children, be present as much as possible, because next thing you know, man, they're probably, they're going to be moving out of the house, and the time has just gone by. So that's something I'm practicing myself personally. It's just being present in the moment and just, enjoy the journey, right?
Yeah.
Of course, there are going to be ups and downs, but that's the beauty of it.
Yeah. Yeah, because when you're present, and when you're not stressed and you're present, you can see the little beautiful moments that you can't see, and you're so overwhelmed or distracted.
Thinking about work or thinking about this and that, it's like it takes that joy. It takes it all away.
Right. Well, you're just oblivious to it because you're so caught up.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Agreed.
So yeah, I love that advice. Great advice.
Michelle, in your work in corporations is profound. Now, you're helping shift the workplace cultures to be more compassionate and resilient. What does it take to cultivate resilient teams, especially in environments where emotional exhaustion or burnout is widespread?
Yeah. I think it's a badge of honor. Unfortunately, a lot of people want to just compare who's grinding it out harder than the other, right? Like it's
it's a competition. Yeah.
like I can push out this much content. Can you? It's like it's kind of becomes the competition for me prove to you what a better engine I have or something. I don't even know.
Agreed. No, you're right.
But I think it does start from the top. I think, reality is leadership sets a tone in a culture. Like a culture is there in an organization, but a leader sets the tone. And when a leader openly discusses what they do for their own balance and self-care and for their own compression, subtly gives their people the okay to take care of themselves. When you have people that know it's okay to take care of themselves, I'm not saying like take advantage of the system. I'm saying
No.
I'm saying like that leader that comes in and says, stress is high in my world right now. So at lunchtime, I'm going to go do X, Y, and Z because I need to just do this for me. I'll be back in an hour. Acknowledging that they're human, acknowledging that they have tools in their toolbox to take better care of themselves is the permission that some people who feel like they got to grind it out need to recognize that I can't perform if I don't take care of me. It starts at the top. It's the tone. It's the humanizing who they are and not getting off the throne of I can keep going and I don't need to see what's behind the curtain, when they really do need to see what's behind the curtain, because then they need to realize how that's serving that leader and how it can serve them.
No, I love that. I remember I was having a conversation with a friend of mine, and we were talking about taking care of ourselves, right? We're both big car guys, and I made the analogy. I was like, Wilmer, we're big car guys, right? We always put the best fuel, the best oil, the best, all the stuff, the maintenance on this thing, but yet we won't do that for our own selves.
Yeah.
We won't exercise. We won't, eat right or do the proper steps to like take care of ourselves. And it's frankly, excuse my language, but it's ass backwards.
Yes.
So I think to your point, if we can just take care of ourselves, we're the best machine that we're ever going to be working on. And without that, how can you actually progress and move on to that next level that you see yourself to be?
So true. How would that car compete if it didn't have the best fuel, the best tires? Like, that's a great analogy to get people to realize. I tell people this all the time. How do you expect your body to run if you're not getting enough nutrients? You're not getting rest. Like, how? You're not gonna. You're gonna muddle along. You're gonna be vulnerable for disease. You're gonna be vulnerable for sickness. You're not gonna show up. You're gonna be regretful of how you handle conflict, which is inevitable. So
100%.
at the impact, we always have to get people to realize the impact of not.
Yeah, it's crazy. Something you've mentioned before is the importance of shifting the conversation from solely from mental illness to emphasizing on the preservation of emotional well-being. Can you expand on this idea? Why is it crucial, and how can we make this shift as individuals and, more importantly, as a society?
And that's why we do the work we do. My business partner and I are deeply committed to touching as many lives as possible with our work, because we believe too many people are caught up on the hamster wheel, and they ultimately by default will land in burnout if they don't realize how vulnerable their well-being is if they don't take care of it and preserve it. So that's why I started to do this work. I thought, to hit a wall. You don't have to hit a wall. You can actually avoid the wall by just doing what you do. So I think we need to get people to realize they have agency. Most people think, oh, I'm gonna do this to a point until something happens, and then I guess I'm gonna have a come to Jesus and figure out what I'm gonna do. And it's like, no, don't you want?
It doesn't have to be.
It doesn't have to be that way. Exactly. So people don't realize what they have control over. That's why I say, we want people to realize they have the agency to say, a boundary in place, and I'm not working 5 hours after dinner. I'm going to go and spend time with my loved ones. I'm going to disconnect, going to do something that I know is going to fuel me and give me some balance back in my life. Because it's those drops in the bucket that give us that balance. So yeah, I think we definitely need to shift this narrative. Burnout isn't inevitable. You just take and reclaim some time for yourself every day.
No, I love that. One thing that I've been trying to work on is staying away from my phone, especially after work hours. It's as if I'm still working while I'm trying to take my kid to the park. And, I regret, I still got time because my kids are young. But it's seeing it now where I'll catch myself. I'll be in the middle of a phone call or doing an email at 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock at night when I'm trying to make dinner or trying to do other things, like just being so many places at once.
Good.
And just too distracted, So one of the things I am working on is kind of like throwing the phone away, just putting it in another room somewhere else. There's no fire that has to be put out at 8 o'clock at night.
So this is such a beautiful example because we are such a connected society that people do this. You are one of everybody that does this, right? Say boundaries are the ultimate act of self-love. And a boundary like I'm turning off work at a certain time, you get to recharge, rejuvenate, feel good, come back refreshed versus working throughout the entire night, going to bed, thinking about work because you were just emailing about work. Then you're in your bed thinking about work, and then the next day comes and you've not stopped
dreaming about it.
It's like you have to step away. We don't realize how important it is. Just create a boundary that says after 5:30 I'm not working, because I need that refresh from 5:30 until 8 a.m. the next day to just rest, recharge, clear my head, and I can put the fires out in the morning. And my family is going to benefit from me being fully present.
It's so crazy. Like, I feel like I got goosebumps as you're talking about it, because it's true, But again, it's that thing that we have to build on every single day. And it can't be based on motivation. Like, I'm motivated to work on my resilience. Like, no, we need to have the discipline in place.
Yeah.
Because discipline, it's there regardless if you feel like doing it or not.
Right.
And if you really care about yourself, I think it's in your best interest and in your family to build on that.
Yeah, but as a society, we view, and I said this earlier, we view as taking care of ourselves as something we do if there's time. My argument is you got to grab onto that time and declare your time for you. You got to put the oxygen mask on your face before you
Yeah.
put it on the people around you. You have to start relating to self-care as a non-negotiable that you do for a little bit of time every day and not leave it up to chance. If there's extra 30 minutes, then I'm going to do me. No, like non-negotiable. That's my challenge for my clients and for people listening today. Get a non-negotiable, whatever it is, and declare it for you, or it's never going to happen.
No, I love that. It's so true. I got to say, I love that you bring compassion into in this conversation about resilience. In environments that are fast paced and high pressure, compassion can sometimes feel like a luxury. How can we practically cultivate compassion in the workplace, and what impact does it have on our resilience?
Gosh, so much, so much. But we can't demonstrate compassion for those around us in a work environment if we're not first demonstrating it for ourselves. So it starts with us, and it starts with our leaders too. I mean, we are creating our culture by who we are in the workplace, but also who the leaders are.
True.
Compassion has to start with us. So you can't expect a leader to extend compassion to his people if he's not extending compassion to himself, if he's running himself into the ground. That has to be a core.
That's every day,
Exactly.
unfortunately.
Exactly. So if you want a better culture in your workplace, you got to see how that leader is modeling. How is that leader modeling? Because like your little child over there, they're watching what you're doing more than what you're saying. How are your leaders modeling the kind of a culture and environment that they want for healthy people? Because everyone's paying attention to what they're doing and how they're treating themselves, then how they're treating their staff.
No, it's so true. It's the same thing. Like with me, I like to in this because I'm a young father. I have two young girls, and I feel like I have to build myself up. I have to have more compassion for myself, and frankly, maybe give myself a little more grace. Because sometimes I can be too hard on myself and be a perfectionist, and that's just not how it works, man. Like I think in my own corporate, being a dad and being a leader to my two girls, I have to take care of myself and put in the proper habits and the proper culture, if you will, within my own household.
Yeah.
And because they're watching me, right? And it's the same thing in the workplace, right? We're watching the leader. If he's fooling around, then I'm just going to do the same thing too, So it's I love how you said that.
I think it also has to do with getting the impact, right? Like get the impact. I have a lot of type A. You mentioned like type A, like, and everything has to be perfect. So I have to, and I coach a lot of educators, and there's a lot of educators out there that feel like everything has to be buttoned up and perfect and got a bow on it and whatnot. I always say, get the real impact of the bow. The real impact of the bow. Could you say this is good enough if it means you reclaim some time for you and your family? Maybe it's not you make sure everything is absolutely perfect, but it is good enough so that now you get an hour to hang out and have a nice dinner with your wife or with your husband or connect with your child you haven't seen all day. Good enough. I really do try to instill, get people to realize it's the impact of you having to make it perfect, and it's impacting you and your well-being.
Yeah, I think perfectionism is another word or AKA of procrastination.
Right.
You're waiting for the perfect time, perfect thing, just for a result in your head. But no, if anything, chase progress.
Yes.
I'm just trying to get better every day. I know these things are cliche, but they're cliches for a reason. Like these are tried and true statements, right? So, it's just trying to build that muscle.
Yeah.
Michelle, for our listeners who may be feeling on the edge of burnout,
Yes.
what advice would you give them to help preserve their well-being, and what can they do today to start building their resilience?
So many amazing things. As I said, I have coached over 4,000 hours of resilience coaching, and the things that I've learned are the things that I share. The things that have worked are the things that I want to share. Obviously, we've said it before, you got to make your self-care a priority. So like a couple of the basic things that I notice what people do is they have too much on their plate. So the first place they go to rob time is their sleep. Sounds basic.
So important.
But it's so important, right? You sit there and you think, I'm going to decompress. I'm going to binge watch this Netflix series until 2 a.m. And then you're going to get up in the morning. You're not going to have that energy. You're not going to be able to handle stress. Stress will devour you. You're going to have a bad day. Get your sleep. Like make it a non-negotiable to get at least 8 hours of sleep and know what your body needs. Maybe your body needs 7, maybe some days it needs 10. Do not compromise your sleep. You set yourself up to be behind the 8 ball if you do. Sleep is the number one thing. The other thing is create a little intentionality to how you walk into your day. So many people are falling into their day. They wake up in the morning, they hit snooze, then they're late. Cat pulls out of bed. They're high stress already because, oh crap, I got to get it
I
all.
got to get there on time.
Yeah, got to get the coffee, got to get in the car. They sit in traffic. It's like stress, 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 and they haven't even started behind the desk.
It's my life story.
So I say go to bed 15 minutes earlier, get up 15 minutes earlier, sit in your favorite chair with your cup of coffee for 10, 15 minutes, slowly start your day, clear your head, set an intention for the day. Maybe you want to say a prayer. Maybe you want to meditate. Maybe you want to just watch a candle flicker for 10 minutes. I don't
I
know
love that.
what it is, but you are signaling to your day, this is how it's going to unfold. And I'm filling my cup just a little bit before I go out in the world and fill everybody else's cup.
Yeah, no, I love that. I love that. Instead of waking up in a crazy trance and just, on one starting the day at 100, it's like
Really?
it's brutal, not only to your mental, but that goes throughout the whole body too, right? Like your whole
Absolutely.
body feels it. And I was reading this book by Sadhguru. I'm not sure if you know who he is, but he talks about that when we stress, it's, how should I say? It becomes a chemical imbalance in your body when you stress, right? Literally like poison is literally killing us, right? So I think if we look, as we've mentioned throughout this whole podcast, you're going to deal with it. You're going to deal with stress. It just happens. But it's building that resilience, building that structure to know how to handle it. And, you'll just be better off.
Absolutely. Another piece about sleep, I want to invite your audience to go onto YouTube and look up Matt Walker's Sleep TED Talk.
Okay.
He's a sleep scientist and he talks about how critical sleep is for vitality and longevity. He talks about how sleep is the only place we go to thoroughly rejuvenate our bodies and our minds. When we skimp on that, we're actually compromising our long-term health and our duration of life. So take it seriously. I think that TED Talk woke me up to my own sleep practices, and I invite you to understand the why. Not because this chick Michelle is on this podcast telling you about sleep. Like, go and listen to a sleep scientist tell you
Yeah.
why this should become a non-negotiable.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I've especially now that I have children, I appreciate sleep so much more, and I can feel its effects. I can feel if I had a good night's sleep, how much more energy I have, so much more machismo, if you will. Whereas if I'm got no sleep, oh, man, I'm the worst person you want to talk to. It's I think we don't really consider sleep that important sometimes, and it.
At the impact when you're not a pleasant person, who gets the effects of that? Your daughters, people,
100%.
people in your life, they're the ones getting the watered down version, crappier version of you. So get the impact. It's all about understanding the impact of not. It's more than you. It's don't show up for the people that love me and I love.
No, I love it. Michelle, this conversation has been incredible. Before we wrap up, I'd love to hear one key takeaway you want our listeners to leave with, whether it's about resilience, emotional well-being, or how to start making small, impactful changes in their own lives.
So I tell people this in my notes, in my workshops. The one thing I want your audience to get is that, like, nobody is coming to save them. Nobody is coming.
Preach.
Nobody is. If you want to stay healthy and you want to stick around, you got goals and aspirations, you got a family you love and loves you, you have got to make caring for yourself a daily non-negotiable and not wait for there to be a perfect time. Nobody is coming to wake you up and say, I'm going to take this off your plate, so now you go take care of you. No, you got to claim it if you want to feel better and you want to avoid burnout.
No, I love it. I think it's, frankly, if something like this is black and white. It's either you do it or you don't. And if you don't, you're going to feel the consequences of that. Michelle, where could people find you and your offerings?
My website is on the brink of being released. But until it's released, I really would love for folks to find me on LinkedIn. I'm always posting content on there. So you want to go to LinkedIn. Once my website's released, it'll be there and all of our offerings will be there.
Awesome. We'll leave all the links in the show notes on the bottom. And if you enjoyed today's episode, please subscribe, share, and leave a comment on how you're building resilience in your own life. Michelle, thank you. Thank you for being a part of Weather Your Storms community. And, time's not refundable, so I certainly appreciate you being on here with us.
Pleasure, Chris. Thanks for having me.
All right. You have a great day.
You
Bye.
too.